So first I'd like to start off with a bit of an explanation on the slingshots. I got a certain amount of feedback on my first slingshot review video that it seemed to have come out of left field, and in hindsight obviously it did, because people who weren't sort of up on what I was doing, what I was interested in at the time, were unaware that I had discovered a channel called the Slingshot channel on YouTube, and I'll link to it down below. I'll try and put a little box on the frame or something like that. But the Slingshot channel on YouTube is about a character who goes by Joerg Sprave in Germany, who does all kinds of really strange and cool things with slingshots and slingshot-related devices. And so that's sort of how I got my interest. And he did things like a full-auto slingshot Gatling gun and things like that. And it's all very entertaining, and that's sort of how slingshots, in essence, came into my consciousness as something other than just a child's toy, you know, as something that you'd play with as an adult rather than as a kid. And obviously slingshots have quite significant power. A lot of people don't realize. I think I posted a picture in the description of the other one. Maybe I'll post it as the main photo for this one. But I mean, I was sinking steel balls into wood. I mean, I called it steel acne humorously, but these are not toys. You can get quite significant power levels out of them. You can get really more power than a lot of firearms out of them. And again, Joerg Sprave actually came over to the US and did some testing to show this conservation of momentum and what have you. But anyway, so this video is meant to be sort of a review of the slingshot which he designed and pitched as a concept. And his slingshot is particularly interesting because he released it as sort of a half open source, half product concept, meaning he put plans up online for people who wanted to DIY this, but at the same time said that, okay, you know, we'll also offer a version for sale if you want to purchase it. And I think he said that it had to be less than 20 euros, which I'm guessing in the EU, given the conversion rate, is actually fairly cheap. But by the time it comes over to the US and it's available for sale on SimpleShot, it's a $40 piece of injection molded polycarbonate done to relatively low tolerances. So, but he really encouraged people to do yourself. And since that was a bit above market price, you can buy a number of other very nice slingshots for significantly less than that. I thought, you know, I like this sort of thing, and why not make one myself in line with his designs, and that way I can also avoid any aesthetic quibbles where I say it doesn't fit right. I can get exactly the slingshot I like, and I can also test another half of the concept, which seems to have been less explored in reviews, and that's what you see here. This is made according to Rambone plans, but the grip was shaped to my hand specifically, so it's only exactly Rambone from here up. From here down, you know, you have the same sort of overall depth dimensions, but the shape is, I find, to be a little bit superior. And I think it's kind of cool. Again, structurally, I did the same structure thing as I did on the other. Oh, I haven't presented this before. I did this as a structural thing, a composite layer. So you start with a layer of an existing composite, and then you put it on top of Baltic birch. And this really is meant to be the core of one of these slingshots. The result of this is that everything else can be sort of tacked on as decorative, but this is sufficiently strong. It's much lighter than a lot of the plastic alternatives. And so you can see here then I did red oak for the back. I think this is Avzelia down here, as I recall. It was just a scrap of something I stuck on. And then this is aromatic cedar. As you can see by the reflections, it's not really finished. It needs another sanding and another couple coats of polyurethane. But I brought it to this point and tested it. And so this is what I wanted to discuss. As a concept, as a build-it-yourself plans online concept, I think that is very cool. It's very entertaining. It was very fun to build, and it was a great project. You can see it's got some roughness to it. This isn't a finished grade piece, but I wanted to test the concept and see how I liked it and such, and I just used bits and pieces of wood I had hanging around. I mean, and that was the other great thing about it. Aside from this core, nothing has to be, you know, nice wood. You can pull scraps from everywhere, laminate it as much as you like, and this is one of the advantages of using wood, is that once you have this core, you can pull little pieces of things that you would have thrown away and laminate them together. I mean, this back half is 3 pieces. Here's one piece. You can see the seam there. Here's the second piece, and here obviously is the third piece. So it's a very cool concept. This front half is actually 2 pieces as well, but they're stacked on top of each other here. The seam runs right along here. So that part of the concept I think is great. It was quite easy to do, to follow along with the build instructions. It was very simple. It didn't require any advanced tools. I mean, I cut it out on a scroll saw. I cut the profile out on a scroll saw, and then just shaped it with a rasp and a rotary tool, and finished it with sandpaper and steel wool. It's really, really not that challenging, and quite enjoyable. The downside is the design itself in this case, and I don't fully understand what its problem is. From a technical perspective, but grip-wise, you know, this has no aesthetic quibbles. It takes a little bit of skill. I've done things like this before, so it takes a little bit of skill to figure out how to shape something for your hand so that it's not just comfortable to grab, but comfortable under force. And one of the keys here is to have proper clearance, because this part of your knuckle, when you're gripping something like this part of your knuckle isn't terribly calloused, generally, on most people, but it protrudes, so it can be very sensitive if you don't shape the handle properly to give you clearance, and other things like that. And again, you know, it's not force straight back, it's force at an angle like this, so really you're getting force here and here, things like that. But again, it's a good, enjoyable project. The problem is in shooting. For some reason, the other top shooter is sold by Simple Shot as the Scout, if memory serves. It will occasionally give you a good hand smack if you're shooting over the top. This thing, I don't know what it is or why it does it, but every single shot, it comes back and it gets me right in the tip of the thumb here and in the knuckle here. Every shot. Every time. I've tried a number of different forms. Holding it really rigidly. I've tried more follow-through. I've tried all kinds of things. You can sort of adjust where it smacks you a little bit, but at the end of the day, this thing, every single shot, it's getting you. And this is not something that made me a huge fan of this design, to put it mildly. If you're shooting lighter bands, it's no problem. Or if you're shooting heavier ammo, so your velocities are lower off the slingshot, it's less of a problem. But the way I shoot, I want to shoot relatively light ammo, and I want to shoot it at really high velocity, because I want flat trajectories in long range, because I primarily shoot at targets. And as a result, the hand smacks, it doesn't matter how soft your pouch is, just the rubber itself will really give you a good stinger and a good bruise if you really get it. I mean, and so after shooting this for a relatively short period of time, my thumb had actually gone numb, which I guess in its own way does cure the problem, but it's not really the ideal solution. So that is sort of my pitch on the Rambone concept. The concept of, plans to do it yourself, that is fantastic. And I believe there's actually a subforum devoted to this on one of the Slingshot forums, which I'll link down below, annotate in, what have you. But that concept is wonderful, and you can make really beautiful things very easily, and it's wonderful. The downside is that this design, so far as I'm aware, just is not functioning in a comfortable way. And while I would welcome comment down below as to, what I'm doing wrong, why that's happening, I don't really foresee a fix, or a reasonable fix, I guess I'd almost say, because, it would have to be something that was made obvious so that the next person wouldn't encounter it. It's not, the fix has to be more than just, oh, here, you're an idiot. It would have to be something, I consider myself reasonably intelligent, something that somebody less intelligent than me should be able to pick up on quite readily, and shouldn't need to make a video going, oh my god, it doesn't work. So that's my pitch on that. And it's a shame, actually, because the grip on this is far and away the most comfortable of of any slingshot I've used. It really is nice. Rotationally, it's not the most, well, it's not the best indexed, I guess I'd say. So you do get some of this because obviously you're gripping a relatively narrow area, but it is still quite nice. So I like it, but overall this slingshot design, I'm afraid, just doesn't work for me, at least. I can't imagine it working for somebody else unless your hand isn't there, but obviously the further down you move your hand, less advantageous it is. So this, in this same concept, I took the Pocket Predator half-cock, and I said, I really like that, but what if I sculpted this to fit my hand even better? So again, you know, I just took the same core concept. This is you know, providing all the necessary rigidity, and then beyond that I can add anything. So I did aromatic cedar as sort of just a cool colored spacer, and then here we have, you can sort of see it changing color. It's like tiger's eye. It's one of my favorite woods. These are scrap pieces of shedua, maple, and red heart, and I think the result is quite beautiful. And for the tips here, I don't know how obvious it is, I reinforced it with a smidge of maple. I should mention that none of these slingshots are really presentation grade. All of them were sort of hacked out reasonably quickly to be my test mules, make sure the concepts works, etc. But, you know, here it is. And I really enjoy this slingshot. Obviously, there are little things I do differently to sculpt it better in my hand because it's sort of an unusual shape to learn. But it's a cool thing, and I would recommend people do. Obviously, not for sale because this is somebody else's design, intellectual property, what have you. But this is a very cool concept to build a slingshot and shape it to your hand. And I would encourage people to do it for themselves. And it's the other thing is it's so lightweight compared to the other slingshots. The Pocket Predator, which has a steel reinforcement, or the Scout or what have you, which I guess is just FRN. It's very, very lightweight, and that is the one thing about this that is a disadvantage that I'm having to get used to, is when you're shooting really lightweight ammo at really high velocities, you're basically running your bands less efficiently, so you're wearing them more quickly, and less energy is being transferred to the projectile, so more energy is in the pouch and the bands when it reaches the end, and as a result you get more, I'm not sure recoil is necessarily the correct word for it, but the slingshot attempts to jump forward when it reaches a point. Right, but when all the bands, I assume, I haven't checked it on high speed, but when all the bands, I assume, stack up and smash into this. So have some ability to grip it and hold on to it. Otherwise, if you're just like this, if you're only thinking about applying force this way, when it jumps forward, it can simply jump out of your hands. You don't have to do high gloss like I did, and these aren't really a quality high gloss, I'm afraid. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking that up or not, but that's sort of my overview of both, you know, the concept and, of course, the Rambone Slingshot. I look forward to doing more of these. I hope that the response is a little more positive this time, given that, or a little less confused, I guess I'd say, given that now I have some explanation of where this is coming from and why. And I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you have a desire to try this, because you might try and be very surprised by what you find. You really, for very little money, can have a lot of power and a lot of fun. I mean, if you look at airsoft, you'll spend a fortune to try and get 10 joules out of a rifle, and one of these things, you struggle. If you're shooting big ammo, you'll struggle to get less than 30 joules. So it's just something worth noting. And as always, thanks for watching. I hope this is informative. Please post your comments in the description down below and show your hate to the dislike button. Cheers.